this would have been well entrenched within English culture and was fully embraced in English culture. So as Heidi mentioned in her talk, Chinnery and de Genlis' friendship lasted for 23 years. It took the usual course of de Genlis' friendships that began with this very euphoric, intense, let me shower you with loves and gifts, and then a growing disenchantment and distancing, and then a very bitter end. And this was pretty much how de Genlis ended her life and most of her relationships. What happened with Madame Chinnery was de Genlis had specifically asked her if she would take one of her adopted children, and this was an adopted child. She did have children by the Duke, which were also adopted children, but this child was truly an adopted child that she found in Germany during her exile from Paris. He was a harpist, and Madame de Genlis was very ambitious for him, and Viote, which we'll also hear about, was living with the Chinnerys at that time, and she asked Madame Chinnery to take him in and take care of him and expand his career and make sure he met all the right people. And he actually did perform for the king and the queen and the very highest levels of English culture and society. Unfortunately, before this time, Madame Chinnery's daughter had died. She was about 20, I think, somewhere in through there. And she had written a very heartfelt memoir. And Madame de Genlis' son, Casimir, had asked to read it and perhaps take it. But at any rate, to make a long story short, the manuscript disappeared. And so not much more was said. I think Madame Chinnery may have mentioned to Madame de Genlis that she was missing this manuscript. But then, many years later, in one of Madame de Genlis' memoirs, she specifically accused Madame Chinnery of fabricating this episode and defaming Casimir. And she knew nothing about it until her son George happened to pick up a copy of the book and said, "Do you know what Stephanie has said about you in this book that is being translated and printed all over Europe?" And of course she was appalled and very hurt, and Stephanie de Genlis was like, "So what's the problem? You know, I don't know why you're concerned. Maybe in the next edition I'll sort of print some kind of a retraction." And in the next edition, she evidently sort of vaguely mentioned that perhaps she could have been forgetful, but never really published any kind of a true apology. So in the 1825 letter, when she comments on the book and the binding and all these precious gifts that she had given her, that is one of her last letters to her, saying, "I won't write to you again." That's it. So that was